I never imagined I would become the type of woman who could be swayed into betraying the one I cherished above all. I have always viewed myself as resilient, steadfast, and devoted. A person who remains steadfast in her principles, regardless of the consequences. Yet existence has a manner of softening your spirit, revealing how delicate your determination can become when confronted with the appropriate, or perhaps the inappropriate kind of tension. This is the tale of how I strayed from my partner, my union, and my true self. It's a tale of influence, trepidation, and the perilous choices we embrace when we sense confinement. And it all began with a position I believed would rescue me, but instead, it shattered me. My name is Sarah, and throughout my journey, I've embodied a spirit that many would call unwavering. I had a humble yet cozy abode, a devoted partner named Mark, and a position that, though not extravagant, took care of our needs. Mark and I had shared 15 beautiful years of marriage, and despite the challenges we faced, I always felt his deep affection and unwavering dedication to our journey together. He was the type of man who dedicated himself fully, always prioritizing those he loved, and who enveloped me in a sense of security. At least, that was my belief. Then there was my superior, Mr. Charles Whitmore. He was a venerable figure, a commanding presence in our quaint town, and the proprietor of Whitaker Industries, a local manufacturing establishment where I had devoted the last 5 years of my life. Harold was a figure who inspired admiration, not merely due to his years or his fortune, but because of the way he presented himself, with a presence that made you feel diminutive, inconsequential, and entirely reliant on his kindness. He was the type of man who held the power to elevate or diminish your journey with just a whisper, and I understood the importance of treading carefully around him. Initially, I found myself captivated by Harold. He possessed a keen intellect, a playful spirit, and an unexpected vitality that defied his years. He possessed a unique ability to make you feel cherished, as if you were the center of his universe, even when you were aware he was merely toying with your emotions. Yet, as time flowed on, I started to sense an unease creeping in. Harold's praises grew increasingly intimate. His caresses held a captivating warmth, and his humor danced with an enticing undertone. I reassured myself it was innocent, that he was merely an elderly gentleman who lacked understanding. Yet, beneath the surface, I sensed there was something deeper at play. The way he gazed at me at times, it wasn't the way a leader should regard his team member. There was a longing in his gaze, an intensity that stirred a flutter of uncertainty within me. Mark felt it as well, yet he kept his thoughts to himself. He would cast these lingering looks my way when I returned home late from work. His jaw clenched, a silent storm of emotion brewing within. I sensed his unease, yet he struggled to express it without making me feel as though I was being overly sensitive. We both acted as if all was well, even as the atmosphere in our home became increasingly charged with unspoken feelings. Then arrived the moment that transformed everything. It was a Friday evening, and I lingered at the office, absorbed in the completion of a report. Harold had been in a notably dark mood all day, reacting sharply to everyone who came near, and I wished to avoid giving him any cause to unleash his frustrations upon me. As I was gathering my belongings, Harold emerged in the entrance of my office, his cane making a rhythmic sound against the floor. "Sarah," he murmured, his voice deep and textured. "A word, please." A wave of tension washed over me, yet I managed to offer a soft smile and a nod. "Certainly, Mr. Whitaker." He guided me into his office, an expansive space adorned with luxurious furnishings and framed images of him mingling with influential figures and stars. He gently shut the door behind us, and for a brief moment, silence enveloped us both. Then he turned to me, his gaze deep and enigmatic. "You've been doing remarkable work lately," he said, his voice unexpectedly tender. "I've observed." A wave of comfort washed over me. "I appreciate it, Mr. Whitaker. That holds deep significance." He nodded, yet his demeanor remained unchanged. "There's a matter I wish to share with you. Something significant." My heart ached. "What is it?" He paused, his gaze deepening as though he were contemplating his expressions with great care. Then he moved nearer, the sound of his cane gently meeting the floor with every step. I've been contemplating your journey here at Whitaker Industries. You hold significant worth, Sarah. However, the company is undergoing some transformations, and I need to be assured of your commitment. A wave of unease washed over me. Certainly, Mr. Whitaker. You can rely on me. He smiled, yet the warmth didn't touch his gaze. Excellent. Because I have an enticing offer for you. One that could enrich us both. I found myself at a loss for words. My thoughts were swirling, my heart racing within me. I could have stepped away, could have expressed my disinterest in whatever he was presenting. Yet, I remained still, captivated, as he drew nearer, his warmth brushing against my ear. You see, Sarah, he murmured, his voice laced with intensity, I've developed quite an affection for you, and I believe it's time we intensified our connection. I felt a wave of unease, but I was frozen. I couldn't find my voice. All I could focus on was Mark, on the deep yearning I had for this opportunity, on the weight of what I might forfeit if I declined. And then, before I could hold back, I nodded. The instant I did, it felt as though I had relinquished a fragment of my essence. Harold's smile grew, and he took a step back, his cane softly tapping against the floor as he settled behind his desk. I remained there, motionless, my thoughts swirling in a chaotic dance, each one elusive. What had I just consented to? What did he imply by deepening our connection? My stomach twisted with a blend of trepidation, aversion, and an elusive sensation that hovered near the edge of intrigue. Good, Harold said, his voice velvety and confident. I knew you'd come around. I parted my lips to reply, yet silence enveloped me. My throat was parched, my tongue weighed down. I yearned to inquire about his expectations, to understand the depths of this offer, but the words eluded me. Instead, I just stood there, my hands trembling at my sides, as Harold leaned back in his chair and studied me with those piercing, calculating eyes. You're a clever woman, Sarah, he said, his tone almost casual. You understand the way things unfold. Individuals like myself. We don't arrive at our destinations by adhering to the norms. And individuals like you. Well, let's just say you have much to benefit from being in my favor. A wave of frustration washed over me at his words, yet I compelled myself to remain composed. Mr. Whitaker, I find myself perplexed by your request. He laughed softly, a deep, resonant sound that sent a delightful tremor through me. Oh, I believe you understand, but if you require clarity, I shall provide it. I desire you, Sarah, and I am not one to accept rejection. My heart raced within me, and a surge of unease enveloped me. This felt surreal, an overwhelming wave of emotion crashing over me. I longed to cry out, to escape the confines of this space, to reach out to Mark and share every detail of what was unfolding. Yet I remained still, caught in a web of trepidation and uncertainty. Harold rose to his feet. His cane whispered against the floor as he glided around the desk and drew near. He paused mere inches from me, his breath warm against my skin, carrying the subtle aroma of whiskey. My stomach twisted with anticipation, yet I remained still, breathless. You're a stunning woman, Sarah, he murmured, his voice deep and inviting. And I've anticipated this moment for what feels like an eternity. Before I could respond, he extended his hand and took hold of my arm. His grasp was unexpectedly powerful for someone of his years. I attempted to break free, yet he held me with unwavering strength. His gaze held mine. Embrace it, he murmured, his voice carrying a gentle warmth. You'll only complicate things for yourself. I wanted to cry out to distance him, to do anything to prevent what was about to unfold. But I didn't. I just stood there, captivated, as Harold leaned in and pressed his lips against mine. It wasn't a tender kiss, the kind you'd anticipate from someone of his age. It was yearning, intense, filled with a deep, instinctual longing that made my insides churn. I wanted to retreat, to urge him to cease, but I found myself unable to. All that occupied my mind was Mark, about how essential this opportunity was, about the significant loss I would face if I declined. And then, before I could hold back, I found myself kissing him in return. The days that came after that evening were a haze of remorse and uncertainty. I distanced myself from Harold as much as possible, immersing myself in work and daily tasks to keep my thoughts engaged. Yet, regardless of my hectic schedule, thoughts of him lingered in my mind. The recollection of his lips against mine echoed endlessly, a persistent reminder of past moments and the desires that still stirred within me. Harold, it seemed, took pleasure in my unease. He'd summoned me to his office for discussions that strayed far from professional matters. His gaze would linger on me, stirring an unsettling sensation within. He'd utter veiled remarks, his voice laced with implication, igniting a wave of frustration and embarrassment within me. Yet, words eluded me. I couldn't jeopardize my position, my source of stability, my feeling of safety. Mark sensed the shift within me, though he remained silent about it. He'd cast these lingering looks my way when I returned home late from work. His jaw clenched, revealing a silent tension. I sensed his unease, yet he struggled to express it without making me feel as though I was exaggerating. We both wore masks of tranquility, even as the atmosphere in our home thickened with unspoken feelings. Then one evening, the dam broke. Mark had been unusually fidgety all day, his restlessness palpable. His gaze flickered towards me whenever he believed I was unaware. I attempted to dismiss him, concentrating on the monotonous chores of tidying and arranging that had become my refuge. Yet, as time slipped by, the atmosphere in the house thickened, enveloping me as if the very walls were drawing nearer. Finally, around 9 p.m., Mark shattered the stillness. "Sarah," he murmured, his voice thick with feeling. "We need to discuss something." I remained silent initially, my focus solely on the kitchen counter. My hands quivered as I sought to calm my racing heart. But then Mark stepped closer, his presence enveloping me, and I knew I couldn't evade this any longer. "What do you wish to discuss, Mark?" I asked, my voice icy. "About how you've shattered our union. About how you've hurt me deeply." Mark flinched, his face pale with remorse. "Sarah, I know I've erred. I recognize the pain I've caused you. Yet, I need you to see that this was never solely about my own desires. Harold, he's not the person you believe him to be." I felt a chill, my heart racing in my chest. "What do you mean?" Mark inhaled deeply. His hands quivered as they glided through his hair. "Harold, he has been weaving his influence over me for months. He's been weaving this intricate dance, drawing me closer, stirring emotions within me that I never expected. No, I was vulnerable. I allowed him to proceed. My gaze was fixed on him, thoughts swirling within me. What are you implying, Mark? That this is entirely his doing? That he's some sort of genius who enticed you without your consent?" Mark simply shook his head. His eyes brimmed with longing. "No, that's not what I mean. I'm not attempting to hold him accountable for it all. I recognize the decisions I've made, and I embrace that accountability. However, it's essential for you to see that Harold is not the blameless party in this situation. He has been playing with our emotions." A wave of frustration washed over me at his remarks. "Please don't attempt to shift the blame onto him, Mark. You are the one who turned your back on me. You are the one who shattered our union." Mark's expression faltered, and for a fleeting moment, I believed he might shed tears. But then his expression shifted, and he reached into his pocket, pulling out a folded piece of paper. "I didn't want to reveal this to you," he said, his voice quivering. "But I believe you should see it." I paused, my heart racing within me. Then, with deliberate slowness, I accepted the paper from him and opened it. It was a letter, crafted in Harold's recognizable script. My hands trembled as I started to read. "Mark, I understand this feels forbidden. I realize we ought to refrain from this. Yet, I cannot deny the depth of my emotions for you. You've stirred something within me that I believed was lost forever. You bring me to life in a manner I haven't experienced in ages. I understand this may cause pain for Sarah, but my desires are overwhelming. I crave you. I cherish you. Always yours, Harold. It was as if the earth had been torn away from beneath me. My hands quivered as I gazed at the letter. The phrases merged into one another as emotions welled up in my eyes. Harold, my own superior, had penned this to my partner. He had revealed his feelings for him, fully aware of the impact it would have on me. "Where did you find this?" I inquired, my voice scarcely audible. Mark paused, his complexion drained. "He entrusted it to me during our last encounter." I contemplated discarding it, yet something held me back. A part of me yearned for you to notice it, to grasp the deeper emotions at play. A wave of intense emotion washed over me at his words. Comprehend. Comprehend what, Mark? That Harold is a cunning, self-centered individual who is indifferent to the feelings of others. Or that you're a fragile, indecisive man who couldn't control his desires. Mark flinched, his eyes brimming with sorrow. "Sarah, please. I recognize my missteps. Yet my feelings for you run deep. I yearn to mend what's been broken. I long to mend what's broken." I shook my head, my voice trembling as I spoke. "This cannot be repaired, Mark. This cannot be mended. You have shattered everything. You have shattered us." Mark's expression twisted, and for a fleeting moment, I sensed he might protest. Yet, he simply nodded, his posture sagging in resignation. "I understand," he murmured, his voice soft and fragile. "I will leave." I observed him as he turned and strolled out of the kitchen, his footsteps resonating throughout the home. As the front door softly shut, a wave of feelings washed over me. Frustration, sorrow, a sense of betrayal, and an unnamed sensation lingered in the air. It resembled a deep, aching loss. The weeks that followed Mark's departure were a haze of heartache and uncertainty. I drifted through the house like a shadow, scarcely eating, scarcely sleeping, my thoughts enveloped by the visions of Mark and Harold together. I found myself endlessly revisiting the moments I had overlooked, the signals I had dismissed, the truths I had clung to. How long had this been unfolding? How had I been so unaware? Mark attempted to connect with me to share his side, but I couldn't endure it. Each time he reached out, whether through a call or a message, it felt as though my heart was being pierced. He sent blooms, heartfelt notes, and even appeared at my doorstep one evening, pleading for a chance to converse. Yet, I found myself unable to meet his gaze, overwhelmed by a tide of intense emotions and a sense of deep disappointment. Harold, in the meantime, had vanished from sight. He departed the town in silence, leaving only a note that whispered, "I'm sorry. I hope one day you can find it in your heart to forgive me." Yet, the thought of forgiveness seemed out of reach. How could I find it in my heart to forgive him? How could I extend that grace to either of them? As the weeks transformed into months, the weight of my circumstances began to envelop me. Mark initiated the divorce, and the process was both rapid and harsh. He didn't contest my claim to the home or the finances. He longed to be free of me, and I understood his feelings. The last decision arrived on a chilly, overcast morning, and I found myself on the floor of our vacant living space, gazing at the documents in my grasp, sensing that my existence had come to a halt. I endeavored to move forward, to reconstruct my life, yet it proved to be a challenge. The betrayal had etched a mark that refused to fade, a hurt that deepened with each day that passed. I immersed myself in work, in passions, in anything that could draw my attention away from the ache. Yet, no matter how fervently I sought refuge, the memories, the inquiries, the possibilities lingered, haunting me. Then, one evening, as I was tidying up the attic, I stumbled upon a box filled with old photographs. They captured moments of Mark and me, from the early days of our union. We appeared so youthful, so joyful, so deeply connected. I sat there on the floor, flipping through the photos, tears cascading down my cheeks as I recalled the life we once shared. And then, at the bottom of the box, I discovered a letter. It was from Mark, penned shortly after our union. In it, he expressed the depth of his affection for me, the thrill he felt about beginning our journey together, and his eagerness to share a lifetime by my side. I absorbed the words repeatedly, my heart aching with every line. Sarah, he had penned, you are my entire world. Life without you is unimaginable. I vow to adore you, to hold you dear, and to remain true to you for all my days. A wave of frustration washed over me at his words, at the vows he had made and shattered. Yet beyond that, a profound, lingering sorrow enveloped me. Sorrow for the life we had shared, for the affection we had tarnished, for the individuals we had once been. I found myself at a loss with the letter, the memories, the ache. So I carefully returned everything to the box and tucked it away in the attic's corner, out of sight. Yet, I understood it would forever linger, a whisper of what had slipped away, of the decisions I had taken, of the existence I once cherished. The days that followed Mark's departure were a haze of heartache and longing. I drifted through the house like a shadow, scarcely eating, scarcely sleeping, my thoughts enveloped by the memories of Mark and Harold entwined. I found myself endlessly revisiting the moments I had overlooked, the signals I had dismissed, the truths I had clung to. How long had this been unfolding? How had I remained so unaware? Mark attempted to connect with me to share his side, but the thought of it was unbearable. Each call or message pierced my heart like a dagger. He sent blooms, heartfelt notes, and even appeared at my doorstep one evening, pleading for a chance to converse. But I couldn't. I couldn't gaze at him without experiencing a wave of intense emotion and heartache. Harold, in the meantime, had vanished. He departed the town in silence, leaving only a note that whispered, I'm sorry. I hope one day you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Yet, the thought of forgiveness seemed out of reach. How could I find it in my heart to forgive him? How could I extend that grace to either of them? As the weeks melted into months, the weight of my circumstances began to envelop me. Mark initiated the divorce, and the process was both rapid and harsh. He didn't contest my claim to the home or the finances. He longed to be free of me, and I understood his feelings. The last decision arrived on a chilly, overcast morning, and I found myself on the floor of our vacant living room, gazing at the documents in my grasp, sensing that my existence had come to a halt. I attempted to forge ahead, to reconstruct my life, yet it proved to be a challenge. The betrayal had etched a mark that refused to fade, a hurt that deepened with each day that passed. I immersed myself in work, in passions, in anything that could draw my attention away from the ache. Yet, no matter my efforts, I remained tethered to the memories, the inquiries, the possibilities that lingered. Then, one evening, as I was tidying up the attic, I stumbled upon a box of cherished photographs. They captured moments of Mark and me from the early days of our union. We appeared so youthful, so joyful, so deeply connected. I sat there on the floor, flipping through the photos, tears cascading down my cheeks as I recalled the life we once shared. And then, at the bottom of the box, I discovered a letter. It was from Mark, penned shortly after our union. In it, he expressed his deep affection for me, his eagerness to embark on our journey together, and his longing to share a lifetime by my side. I revisited the words repeatedly, my heart aching with every line. Sarah, he had penned, you are my entire world. I cannot envision my existence without you. I vow to adore you, to treasure you, to remain devoted to you for all my days. A wave of frustration washed over me at the utterances, at the commitments he had made and shattered. Yet beyond that, a profound, lingering sorrow enveloped me. Sorrow for the existence we had let slip away, for the affection we had marred, for the individuals we had once been. I found myself at a loss with the letter, the memories, the ache. So I carefully placed everything back in the box and tucked it away in the corner of the attic, hidden from my sight. Yet, deep down, I understood it would forever linger in that space. A whisper of what had slipped away, of the paths I had chosen, of the existence I once embraced.